Hello, everyone, and welcome to my second podcast episode. I hope you're all doing well. I'm sitting here, the sun is shining, the roses have just come out in my garden. I've got Oakley down by my feet, my little puppy, for those of you who don't know who Oakley is. So I'm having, it's a lovely day, a nice day to record. I really enjoyed recording my podcast episode yesterday. And I just thought I'm going to go for it. I'm going to get the next one up and ready just so that people have got a little bit to kind of sink their teeth into. And I want to make this introduction pretty brief because I want to dive straight into what I want to go over into this episode. And I want to take you through everything right back to the core and kind of strip back wellness down right to its core, going over how wellness is different for different people and some things you could maybe start incorporating into your daily life, and just sort of taking it all the way back to the beginning. Maybe you're someone who wants to go on a wellness journey, and we're just going to kind of strip it all back, start from the beginning, what wellness is, and maybe how you can start bringing it into your life. So we're going to take it right back to the start, to the beginning. And this is the first of like a mini series, if you like, of how to get you up to speed on wellness and health, and a few things that you can do, like I said, maybe incorporating into your life. And this is just going to start bringing you into it. So wellness is such a big word, it's such a big thing. It's not just like one of these words that has a meaning that's very simple and very easy, and it's not just a word that has one kind of direct meaning, and it will mean different things to different people. So I want to go over that a little bit. I want you to sort of have a ponder and a think as we go through this podcast episode together, and maybe just have a think about what wellness really is for you. So I'm going to put in my introduction here. We're going to get started, and I will see you on the other side. Hi, my name is Meg, and you are listening to the Wellness Musings with Meg podcast. I am a fully qualified beautician and yoga teacher who has studied and worked in health and wellness since 2017. I have been obsessed with wellness my entire life and have always wanted to share my passions more. If you love health, wellness, and yoga and want to learn more, this podcast is for you. I will be bringing you all things wellness, from diet and lifestyle to beauty tips and tricks, and of course, yoga as well. So grab yourself a green tea and find a tranquil spot, and let's jump in. So I think the first thing that we need to go into, or the first thing we need to talk about, is what is wellness, and what wellness actually means. So I went onto Google and typed in the meaning of wellness, and three really nice definitions came up. I really liked all three of them, so I'm going to talk about them in a second, because each of them kind of brings a different aspect and kind of delves into the meaning a little bit more. So the first one is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. And I really like that because I like the fact that it says a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being. And I think that's important to note, that you can't really have one without the other without wellness. You know, you need to tick the boxes off to be a fully well person. The physical, the mental, the social, they all need to kind of be ticked off and okay for that to kind of be a fully well-rounded, or wellness in its full capacity. The second one is wellness refers to the quality of or state of being in good health, encompassing both physical and mental well-being. It's an active process where individuals make choices to lead a more successful existence. Think of it as a holistic approach that goes beyond mere survival. Instead, it aims for thriving. This, for me, that last little chunk, that's my favorite quote or definition of the three of these. And I think it's because it's important to think about, this isn't just mere survival. It's about thriving. It's about taking your life and taking it that one step further, that one step better. And the last one is the state of being in good health, especially as an actively pursued goal. And again, that is important because wellness, well-being, it's not something that you have to pursue it. It's something that doesn't tend to just come naturally. It's something that you can always actively pursue. And that's why I love wellness. And that's why I put that name into my podcast. That's why this is Wellness Musings with Meg, because wellness isn't just a one dimensional thing. It's not just something that has it's not got one meaning to it. Wellness means a lot of things for a lot of different people. And I think it's important that it is something that you pursue towards, and it is something that you continually can keep learning and going over. And it's something that you never really stop. I mean, I've learned that in my career, that, you kind of get hooked on it a little bit, and it's something that you never really stop learning about. And there's always new science coming out. um, and that is so important to me. But that's why I needed the word wellness into this podcast, because it's a very three-dimensional word, and it runs so deep and can mean a lot of different things to different people. And when I trained in a skincare brand years ago, I remember being told, in sort of a holistic healing, you have a triangle of the three different aspects of a person: the mind, the body, and the spirit. And this is a nice way of seeing the whole person and kind of separating it into three major parts. From here, you can break each part down further. I think maybe the next few episodes, I might break down each one. That's a good starting off point, is the fact that the person is kind of the body, the mind, and the spirit. And that is, again, we're looking a little bit more into the holistic side, but wellness is looking into more holistic sides anyway. And that is looking into kind of holistic healing. And one thing I love about this is how wellness can be different for different people. And when I set up my beauty business, my slogan was, if it makes you feel beautiful, and then do it. And this was inspired by my family and how each of us does different things to feel beautiful. A good example is probably me and my mum. We are very different in that, as you can imagine, I am the self care beauty queen. My way of feeling good and feeling beautiful is having baths, getting a massage, being pampered, anything like that. And for my mum, that is her idea of hell. However, my mum loves to paint, and she paints the most beautiful abstract pieces. And when she's painting, that is what makes her feel beautiful. And that's what grounds her. And so that's why I wanted that to be my slogan, because it doesn't really matter what makes you feel beautiful. If that's what makes you feel beautiful, then to do it. It kind of takes it a little bit further. It stops it from being this one box of, it has to all be beauty related. And that's what took my business from being just about, the nails, the facials, the massage, and it took it more into, whatever makes that person feel beautiful. And that then also took it out of judgment too, because I'd have some people who, you know, for example, Botox and fillers. I think I want to do a podcast episode a little bit more on Botox and fillers. I think this is something that people are either all for or very against. And I don't think that necessarily needs to be the case. Obviously, Botox and fillers, we all know, can be very addictive. But if that small little thing that you're having done, if you're getting a little bit of Botox done here and there, and that makes you feel beautiful, then do it. Who am I or to say not to do it? And it just made me realize that what is a luxury for some people isn't for someone else. What makes someone feel so beautiful or makes their soul shine isn't the same for somebody else. Some people, it will be things like gardening, reading, and for some really crazy people, it might, I don't know, even be like maths or something like that. And the same can be said about the body. For example, I always thought growing up that fruit and vegetables were the absolute basis for health. And if you didn't eat, your fruit and vegetables and have a healthy diet in that respect, you're not a healthy person. And for the most part, that people that is kind of the generic advice, and that does work. I actually had a client come and see me though, and she had a disease that basically she couldn't eat anything fibrous, so lettuce, fruit, vegetables, anything like that. It made her seriously ill. So she could only eat and only process white and brown food like bread. And that just shows in itself how we're all different people and how wellness is going to be different to different people. So it's not a one size fits all. And for most of us, yeah, the generic advice is going to be important, but wellness will be different for different people, and I think that's a really important thing to take with you. And what works for one person might not necessarily work for another. I think cold therapy is another one. It's something I'm personally researching a lot into at the moment. My circulation is absolutely terrible, and so in the winter, I live in England, the depths of winter, it is absolutely freezing, and I get things like chilblains on my feet. I can get really quite unwell sometimes, and so plunging myself into cold water, it isn't, the advice. I'm still looking for the advice. I'm still looking for the right papers and the right literature to find the best course of action. But for me, because of my circulation, that is not that isn't going to work for me. It just makes things worse. That being said, Wim Hof, a lot of people have heard of him, and he lives in an ice world. I can't remember where he lives. I think it's Iceland, and he gets into freezing cold water every single day. So what works for some people will work for others. And I think that's something you need to bear in mind when you're going on a wellness journey and when you're looking into wellness quite deeply. What works for someone won't necessarily work for everybody else. But if you are someone who is on a wellness journey or wants to start a wellness journey, where do you begin? And I think for me, and for what I sort of, when I have clients come and see me and they're like, I'd like to start incorporating more, what can I do? And I think the first question you need to ask yourself is, are you thriving? And could you personally do better? So in pretty much everybody, there is always something you could do or at least try in the wellness industry. I mean, the wellness industry is constantly coming up with new products, new data, new ideas. There's always going to be something that you can try to see if you can bring yourself that further along. If you're someone who is absolutely, completely out of it, don't know anything about wellness at all, starting off with something really basic and just starting at the basics is probably the easiest, rather than researching and getting overall with all these different things. I'm on Instagram and TikTok, and people come up with some really, really crazy things to try and to do. And there's always a skincare gadget or, this or that. And oh, it's going to change your life forever. And if you're completely new to wellness, it can be a little bit overwhelming. So I would take it really slow, take it one step at a time. And just as well thinking, are you content? Because there are, I think, again, I'm thinking back to my mum. When it comes to wellness, I don't, my mum is an extremely content person. And yeah, she does drink alcohol, and she does, eat the foods that she enjoys. She exercises a lot. She goes out in the garden, she paints. She doesn't necessarily do that typical self-care of the whole, shutting yourself in a bathroom and having a facial and pampering in the bath, but she is extremely content. And what her idea of wellness is not going to be, she's not in a place where she's going to be like, oh, I'm going to change my life, or I'm going to start doing this, because she's very content. And if you are someone that's content, then that's amazing. I mean, some people will spend their entire life finding finding content, and that's incredible if you're there already. I mean, look at yoga. People will spend their entire life, going without and doing everything they can to make themselves and their life as pure as possible, so they can find contentment in having nothing. So I think that's another thing you need to think about as well. But it's, if you are someone who, you think, oh, I'd like to start changing, I'd like to start bringing a few things in, or maybe you're starting to go on a journey and you're changing here and there, I think it's worth just taking a moment or some time to reflect and being really honest and really deeply kind of thinking. And this can be a long and sometimes even emotional process. Why am I struggling to say emotional so much? Um, I often say to my clients when they start kind of thinking or saying, "Oh, I'd like to change this and I'd like to change that," and I go, "Look, do you know what? Sit down with a bit of paper or a pad of paper and a pen, and just sit there and have a box of tissues ready in case you have a little cry, and just think about things that maybe you're not completely happy with in your life, things that if you could have that ultimate life, like you could look at yourself in 10 years time and go, yes, that's it, that's what I want. What would you be looking at? What would you change right now in your life? And some people, this is going to be easier than others. And once you've written everything down, you can look at those issues and then start to fix, like, what you would ideally do to fix it. So, for example, if you are unhappy with maybe your body, you'd then go, okay, so, you know, I'd like to lose a little bit of weight. So let's look at diet, let's look at exercise. It doesn't mean you have to do that step there and then of doing it, but what you're doing is you're writing down what you're not necessarily happy with in your life, and then you're going, okay, and how can I resolve that? And the reason this can be quite difficult is because you are being honest with yourself, and some things are going to be easier than others. There's always going to be somebody who is maybe in a really toxic relationship or a toxic job and feels very trapped. And those are not going to be necessarily quick fixes. But it's looking at the things that cause stress, cause aggravation in your life, and then writing it down and then thinking, okay, well, how do I change that? It doesn't mean you have to necessarily do it there and then that second, right, well, I'm going to quit my job, because that's just irrational. But you're noticing what your triggers are and what's causing your unhappiness. And then you can start to look at what you can do to get yourself out of that situation. And I think it should never be ruled out, and it should never be something that you don't feel comfortable or don't think is worth doing. But if you feel like you need to see a counselor or a specialist, get yourself in, book that appointment, speak to that specialist, speak to that therapist, because especially if things are very deep rooted, I'm obviously sitting here, I'm not a counselor. Everybody's got different things going on in their lives, everybody's going to have different things causing them stress, and it isn't always necessarily going to be like, oh well, I'll just start, I don't know, drinking more water, or I'll just stop smoking cigarettes. Some people it's not that easy, and that's okay. That is absolutely fine. We've all got our own demons, we've all got our own things going on. But it's having that moment of realization that those are the things that make you unhappy or make you feel trapped. And then it's taking those first steps to kind of going to a better place and a happier place and finding that wellness a little bit more. So it's not necessarily an easy thing to always sit and write your list down, but I think it then helps you to sort of realize what's going on. And once you've got the list, it's important, I think, not to get overwhelmed by it all. And that is going to be easier than for some people than others, because for some people they might just sit there and be like, oh my god, there's so much I want to change. But have it at the back of your mind, have those realizations there that those things are not working for you right now, and just take it really slowly, take it one step at a time, break it down, how you're going to tackle each of these things. It's a slow process, it's not something that you can do quickly. If you write a list, and for some people, they'll sit there and they go, right, well, I'm not happy about, I don't know, I don't like my hair, and my skin's a mess, and I smoke, and my diet's awful, and I don't drink enough water. So this week I'm going to get my hair done, then have a completely new skin regime and a new skincare, and then I'm going to change my entire diet, and then I'm going to drink loads of water, and I'm just going to stop smoking. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work, because you're going to get like one day in and you're going to be exhausted, tired, had enough, and you're just going to stop. So take everything one step at a time. Find something easy to change, And what I normally say with people is, find the easy but important things and then start there. So for me, often people who talk to me, it'll be things like skincare. And the first thing I always say to people is, if you're going to sit there and want to spend thousands or hundreds of pounds on skincare, or even not, maybe you're not going to spend that much money on your skincare, but you are going to be every day putting the time and effort into a skincare routine, you're investing time, whether you're investing time or money, make sure you've got that groundwork in first. There is no point doing any of that with your skincare if you are smoking excessively, drinking excessively, drinking tons of caffeine, having energy drinks, all these things. And also, the very most important thing, I think, for pretty much everybody is to drink your water. Water is what we are made of. It is the most important thing to get into your body. And it's just going to help. That in itself is going to help your skin. So for some people, you just start off with maybe drinking more water. Get one of those bottles that have the times on it. They're brilliant. You can buy them on Amazon, and they have like the little encouraging slogans, and they get you to drink all your water. If you don't like the taste of water, drink green tea. If you don't like green tea, drink squash. It's not the best thing in the world, but it's a lot better than no water at all. It's just about starting to bring the correct things in, or I say correct, bringing the more healthier option in. And whatever decision you decide to make, whatever you decide to do, just remember that wellness and well-being should not be a chore. It should be something fun and something that you enjoy. So for me, like, I often say to people, do you have a water bottle? No. And I'm like, well, go and find one, go and treat yourself, go. A lot of my clients will be mums that spend, so much time and effort and money on their own children, and I'll be like, yeah, but you're not even drinking yourself enough water. So I'm like, why don't you go go and have a look on Amazon and buy yourself a nice water bottle? Why not? Have it with you wherever you go when you're running around with the kids, and you've got that there. You can often they're huge, and I'm like, you just have to refill it once, and then you've got all the water that you need to drink in your day. I was like, if you feel like you've got the extra time in the morning, put a bit of cucumber in there, put some mint leaves in there. There's so much you can do to just make yourself feel a little bit more special, and it just takes it from being a chore into something a little bit more fun. I think another thing as well with everything with wellness is that not only should you enjoy it, and I actually said this on my last podcast episode, but I'm going to say this quote again because I absolutely love it. The best time to plant a tree is 20 years ago. The second best time to plant a tree is now. So just go for it, dive in. Even if you're making tiny little changes, maybe you're going to bed 5-10 minutes earlier, maybe you're not looking at your phone before bed, maybe it's water, maybe you're gonna, I don't know, start your day off with a smoothie instead of an unhealthy breakfast or no breakfast. Make these tiny little changes, and over time these tiny changes start to build up and they start to make an effect into your life. Yeah, so little delve into wellness, a little idea of what you can do to kind of change in some way. And yeah, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. I really hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you've got any questions, you can always drop me a message. I'm on Instagram and TikTok as well. Everything's under the name Meg Joy Smith. And I look forward to having a chat with you next time. And I think, yeah, we'll have a little look at maybe the 3 pillars of wellness: the body, the mind, and the spirit. We'll start to dive a little bit more into that perhaps. But enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.